There are two types of story analysis I've seen. The first is the curtains are blue type of stuff that you would hear in English classes. This focuses on symbolism, subtext, and hidden meaning. I'll call this interpretation. The second is the 3-act structure type that you hear from screenwriters. This focuses on consistent design using the atoms of storytelling as building blocks. I'll call this engineering. I believe there is value in both styles. Here are some interpretation examples from my own channel. I have an analysis on Jujutsu Kaisen's intertextuality with the battle genre and how it evolves from being a dark subversion to an idealistic embodiment. I have an analysis on Naruto explaining the metaphorical connections to Buddhism. I have an analysis explaining how the evolution of Rasen Shuriken is symbolic of the evolution of Naruto's mental strength and how the evolution of Shadow Shuriken represents the evolution of Naruto and Sasuke's bonds. For examples of engineering, there's my analysis on Rascal's first arc, my magic system videos, and all my storytelling theory videos. Both styles have value, but if you're not new here, you know that I believe the first style is significantly more valuable than the other. I always liked stories and writing, but I didn't like English class. The only class where stories got analyzed was somehow not my favorite. That initially didn't make sense to me until I started watching screenwriting videos. Interpretation could never explain my enjoyment of a story. Furthermore, the stories that were chosen for interpretation weren't entertaining to me, but when I entered the world of screenwriting analysis, the explanation of engineering perfectly conveyed most of what I enjoyed about entertaining stories apart from raw appeal. I will always enjoy a story that prioritizes engineering over interpreting. Maybe that's just the way my brain works. Let's take JJK for example. The symbolism I found spanned the entirety of the story, which is impressive, but if you remove all of that from the story, the change of my enjoyment in the story moves down a small decimal point. On the other hand, if you were to remove a lot of the story engineering quality from JJK, the change in my enjoyment would be massive. I can have the time of my life with a story that is pure engineering and design, no interpretation or symbolism. But if you give me a story that's the opposite, all interpretation, no engineering, it'll be the worst thing I've ever consumed. That's my position and why I didn't enjoy English class. They gave me books with very little engineering quality and tried to make me think they were good because of their interpreting quality. I didn't buy it and I never will. All of this also explains my significant distaste for The Boy and the Heron. You can like the movie, many do, but I don't. If you look at the Wikipedia page, there are 5 paragraphs interpreting the themes of the movie, but my analysis of the story reveals the disastrous design of the story's engineering. There's a lot to interpret, but the external logic and structure is abysmal. A more minor offense is reaching. When it comes to engineering, you are looking at what is objectively there and then coming up with an explanation for why it works or evokes a feeling. Then you can test that same design in another story and see if it has the same outcome. For example, if I say, this is how you write a good character arc, I can look at other stories that have the same formula and see if I also think they're good, thus proving or disproving the theory. With interpreting, there is way more room for reaching and personal bias that affects your interpretation. Sometimes the curtains are just blue. In English class and on YouTube, I've seen some analysis that made me think that the person was forcing a connection. People can see what they want to see, and if you design your story so that its quality relies on how people interpret it, then you're letting the audience do the hard work instead of your pen. Your pen is only as good as the audience's interpretation of your work, which means that your pen is not actually good. There also don't seem to be consistent rules for how to reach a conclusion with interpreting. If the curtains are blue, the directions you can go with the analysis are limitless, creating infinite conclusions. But if I'm trying to reach a conclusion about a character arc, I look at the initial belief and choices. I look at some warnings the character was given, then the change event, then the final belief and choices. When analyzing based on engineering, the conclusion is usually consistent, like a science experiment. If you give 100 people the positive change arc formula and ask them to analyze Lightning McQueen's arc from Cars 1, I bet they're all going to give you basically the same answer. Maybe it's just how my brain works, but I prefer logical consistency over artistic freedom and expression when it comes to analysis and story design. So obviously, I believe engineering is better than interpreting when creating and analyzing, but that's just how I enjoy stories. That's why I focus on storytelling theory. I think it's a tragedy that English classes don't focus on screenwriting and story structure. I think it should at least be given the same importance as symbolic and metaphorical analysis in schools. In general, good interpreting equals more awards. Good engineering equals more money. As a writer, which do you care about more? If you want to learn more about story engineering, subscribe for more analytical academic analysis on storytelling.